Marisa and I used this presentation when we were training teachers with the Rigby ELL assessment. I'd like to give you a quick overview of some things to keep in mind as you go through the Prezi, as you don't have the benefit of hearing our presentation from that day. Okay, let's get started. The first thing is the pre-screener. This is pretty important as it will give you the Fountas and Pinnell level, which you'll use for the rest of your assessment. When you watch the video, you'll see that I'm very encouraging to Tomas. I want him to feel happy and upbeat because this assessment is really just about seeing what does he know and have under control in terms of the English language. On the other hand, as I'm scoring, I really need to make sure that I'm being honest about his mistakes and getting an accurate picture of his reading, because the pre-screener points you to a Fountas and Pinnell level that is sometimes a bit challenging for the student. You're going to watch them really struggle through that assessment. And so if you're careful with your pre-screener, you'll get a better level. And then as you push through that assessment, you'll see that at the end, as you score, it may say, okay, for instruction, you'll drop down a level or two. So don't be put off by a high level after you get through the pre-screener. Work with it and just be encouraging and keep your student upbeat and happy. I won't be clicking on the videos because that will take too long, so please use the Prezi later on. Here's just what the screener looks like. You'll find it in a folder in front of the ELL assessment kit. And as you can see with Tomas, I end up stopping after the first passage because he had enough errors that it gave me a Fountas and Pinnell level. If he had fewer errors, I would move on to the next passage and so on until I had enough errors to find an accurate Fountas and Pinnell level to get started. You'll also notice in the video that I had pulled a stack of folders from the assessment kit. I had a pretty good idea of where he would fall for range, and so I pulled those files just so that as soon as I finished the screener, I could pull that letter and get started with Tomas. Okay. After that, everything is in that file. The listening and speaking task, the cards, everything you'll need is right there in that file folder. So what you'll also see in this video is that I moved on to a different surface because I noticed that the cards on top of the pattern tablecloth I had were a little difficult for a student to discriminate quickly. And again, this test takes time, so anything you can do to help it moving along is great. One other thing I learned by watching this video, and you'll notice when you click on the link, is that with the listening task, you want to stay with the prompt. Each prompt becomes more and more complex and adds more and more sentences that the student has to listen to and discriminate what your directions are. You'll notice with Ramon, I start by saying, now the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is, and none of that is in the prompt. So I added a whole lot of information for him to have to listen to that wasn't a part of the assessment. Another reason why videotaping yourself is a good idea sometimes. Okay, once you do the listening and speaking, you'll move on to the reading passages. There's several. There's a fiction, and then 3 different nonfiction: social studies, science, and math. At the end of each section, there's a little pause note, and that's when you can have the students stop and take some of the comprehension questions. That way you're breaking up the task into smaller pieces as opposed to reading the whole book and going back and doing the whole assessment. You'll notice in the video I have Tomas stop wherever he sees a pause, and then we do the questions together. With kindergarten and first grade, you may read all of the questions to them, and if you'd like to save time, you can even fill in the answer bubbles when they tell you what the answer is. With second grade up, the questions are written in a way that each student should be able to read them on their own. When you watch this writing video, you'll notice that I really take some time with Tomas to look at the student sample. There's a graphic organizer as well as a sample of student writing. This shows him exactly what the expectations are so that when he goes to write independently, he can take as much time as he needs and he knows exactly what he needs to do. So just taking a few minutes to explain and look over the writing sample will really help you in the long run with this writing assessment. So once again, you'll get to the scoring section and it may tell you to drop down 1 or 2 levels for instruction with the student. It may tell you to move up a level depending on how the assessment goes. So once you score, you'll also see next steps. This is a great guide from the ELL assessment kit. It gives us next steps. So if a child is a level 3 in writing, you'll have several great next steps for where you can support them in writing. So when we did this assessment, we were using the T drive. We scanned in some of those next steps, and now you'll also be able to find them in your Google Drive. If you want any help with that, let me know. Thanks for listening and have fun.